let's see who we can get to come in here with us on this
Right
fine
on.
day here.
Let's see.
All right. Oh man.
Okay. Let's see.
I posted on Discord. Let me post on forums because sometimes people are like,
Right.
sometimes people pay attention to forums at work more than they do Discord. I've
Well, it's a
noticed.
little bit easier.
Yeah.
There's a lot of my understanding is there's a lot of workplaces now that are blocking Discord because people are using them to like organize unions, which
That's
is
awful.
horrifying. Oh yeah, it's terrible, but you know what can you do?
What can you do, Rosani? Hey, I should probably change the the thing on Twitch too. That like the title of the stream because it's still got our last one. Man, I just was not prepared for this today. I I did not think my appointment was going to take that long.
Oh, you know how it is. Doctors are like that sometimes.
Yeah. Well,
All the time, really. You wait there forever for them, and that's just what it is.
yeah.
Um.
In this case, it's like a specialist that was volunteering their time at a free clinic. So, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Free clinics are also very, but you can understand it a little bit more with a free clinic because they probably have a shit ton of people going to them. Let's see. I can send to you
All right.
one of the dream messages that I got.
Okay.
So that you can put it up so people can read it,
That works.
if they want to. I just have to find the actual number of it because I am one of the people that doesn't delete messages.
Right. Me too. Isia also sent me a new dream she was sent.
Yeah,
But
she sent that to me.
I don't know if she wants people to see it or not. So I don't know.
Right. Uh, let's see. Oh God, I have
Hello
so
there,
many
Isid.
messages. I
Isid.
have so many messages. What the hell?
Numerological. Numerological was a mod
Oh
before they even
God,
followed the channel.
there's too many messages. Why do I do this to myself? Well, because this is why I don't delete messages because you never know when somebody is going to ask you about something you got a message about.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you
I can
know?
talk about however yesterday with the whole thing with Nipsey coming
Oh,
into Anorian.
yeah.
I it was very funny. The only thing I did in that whole situation was yell "shut up" at him, and Hearn blessed me for 3 days.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. I really like whoever has Hearn. I think they're doing a really great job of mixing sort of this, haha, he's a funny guy who just drinks all day, and this like savage, brutal beast.
Yeah.
I think that that's really cool. I'm glad to see that kind of stuff come to Hearn.
Yeah.
Let's see. I
I
think
thought
I'm
about
getting
shouting some things back at the two people shouting things about me, but I did not in the end. Cuz
I've gotten to the point with Rasani where I'm just like, you know what? She's just gonna do it.
well,
She's just gonna go ahead and shout something. And if I get killed over it, that's just kind of what it is, and I don't particularly care one way or the other.
right. Well, in my case, like, as this character was coming up, I used to shout and then like I used to get like chastised for shouting. So now like I always second guess myself when I want to do a shout and then it leads to me not doing it
Well,
very often.
it depends because every god has their own sort of opinion on shouting. Damariel thinks it's unbecoming because you're supposed to be very level headed and that sort of thing. Ethne doesn't like it because it's what did she say? Well, it depends actually. It depends on the mood you get Ethne in. Sometimes if she's feeling a little bit softer and more like rekindled, and more Hearth like, then she tells you not to. But if she's like in inferno mode and she's pissed at everything, she's like, "Yeah, do it. Let them feel your fire."
Right.
I think Ome doesn't like it because it's loud. Because it's loud and she's like, "Whatever, I don't care."
Right.
Let's see. Okay, so how do I forward this to you?
I don't know. I've never forwarded.
I think it's forward message the number, maybe. Let me check. Um, message. Come on, there we go. I found it.
Lepidoptera Clara in chat says, "For what it's worth, as volunteers, we have been discouraged from being punitive with shouting unless it comes to direct hubris and the like."
Oh, yeah. Killing is more. I assume that people might come to kill me. Like just ran. If I yelled "shut up" at Nipsey,
Sorry.
then it. If he wants to come and try and kill me, he's welcome to. And I'm sure at some point he will because I told him to shut up, and it makes total sense that he
Well,
would want to get back at me for that.
you know what's bizarre to me about the whole Nipsey thing? And it's like, I don't even hate it. I'm not even mad about it. I just think it's weird that I haven't even interacted with Nipsey in literally like real
Well, I
life
think he.
weeks. And
I
he's
think
just
he
like,
knew
I'm
you
going
were
to come
coming to
kill
kill.
you.
I think it's because he knew you were coming to kill him.
I mean,
And that is totally on Rasani. Like Rasani said, "Hey, an enemy to the city is causing trouble in Estaport. If you want to come, give him what for, then you are welcome to come do that." Which we could talk about that little bit of contention as well. And Orient's had an interesting week, I would say, and I love it.
yeah.
I'm really into it. I know some people are really stressed out by it. I think it's great. But I'm the kind of person who likes that kind of thing. So it yeah, so that's one of the dreams that Rasani got. The other one is really sort of integral to her RP right now.
Oh,
So
he came and then he left. I was gonna
yeah,
put his
came
name
and
on
then he
there.
left.
Where is he at?
Yeah, no, if he wants to come in, come on in, hop in.
Don't be scared.
Well, the other dream that she got is very integral to the direction her RP is going to take. So I'm not going to share it because I don't want people to know sort of the direction in which she's going. But this one she's already shared with people, so like I don't particularly care if other people read it.
Right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say to Clara in chat, I didn't even know you were a Solani or whatever. I've seen you in here a few times, but I also definitely, mangled and butchered the first part of your username. So I will just stick to Clara. Or is it Clara or is it Clara? 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 Clara probably. I don't know. This feels
Um.
like a pronounce this moment.
uh.
Oh, it's raw. Cool.
Oh hey. Um. Everybody's favorite Solani. Yeah. I guess the
Hello,
best place
Seremus.
to I guess the best place to start. Um, and then there's Wyatt. We
Wyatt,
do
yep.
often see Wyatt in here.
Yeah.
Wyatt is usually in here, yeah. Giving us his hot outlaw takes on things.
Yeah.
The cowboy perspective, as it
Right,
were.
right.
Yeah. Is your Solani shell a cowboy? It better be. Like that is vital to me. That you got like a little because we had one character that had a cowboy hat in the Templar. Cole, Sir Cole, was a Templar knight, and a great guy. I really enjoyed RPing with him. And he was a good Templar. Like he had a good, solid idea of what it was to really be a Templar. But he was just dead ass a cowboy. He had a cowboy hat and cowboy boots, and it was great. Cole was a lot of fun. It's basically Woody excellent. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
That's what I figured too. That was my guess. I did want to swing back to what Clara said earlier. When I was talking about being discouraged by shouting or something, I didn't mean from gods. And I know Rosani said something about gods straight afterwards. I just meant like when I used to shout, it was like when Benedicto was running things and he'd be like, discouraging me from doing that and that sort of thing, and so would other people. But it was more from like other players and not gods, is what I meant.
Yeah, it's I know in the Templar we definitely discouraged it before you were a knight because it's sort of like somebody who isn't fully knighted writing checks that they can't cash. Like, so it was very much like you're not a knight yet, like calm down, kid. We did that a lot because it's they want basically it's you want to make sure it's not that young impulsive urge to just mouth off, and instead it's you saying I am saying this and I will back it up with my own actions.
Yeah.
So we usually like I know when I was Pentarch I did it too. Was I was discourage people until they were a knight. Then it's like if you get into a fight that is on you. But when you're young, a lot of knights feel obligated to come back you up if you're getting killed, and it makes us look like fools if we have to do it because you ran your mouth. So we discourage people who aren't knighted from doing it usually.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway, what are we talking about today? Everybody's
well,
here.
I assumed probably some of the dream stuff because more people have had dreams. Um, and if anybody in the chat had dreams that they want shared and talked about here, send them to Eric's because I'm not paying attention to Mudlet right now.
Okay.
Um, but we could talk about those. Enorian has had an interesting week, particularly because of these dreams, and I think that that would be very cool to talk
Yeah.
about.
Not
Um,
Surimus doesn't know what we're talking about, which isn't surprising because like obviously this is like within
we've
our
been
bubble.
yeah, it's been kind of under wraps in game in Enorian. We talked about it a little bit on the weekend stream, but Enorian's having some weird, spooky dreams. And I think it's been pretty good for the role play, honestly. I think that it's a good conversation for Honorian to be having. And it's nice because it's not. It isn't just. I know. A few people I know Izia kind of worried that it was like being punished. I don't
Right.
think that's what it is,
Me either.
particularly if you were trying to be punished, they would have only sent it to city leaders.
Well,
They wouldn't be sending it to anybody. Like it
it
seems like some of these are very pointed, but other of them seem just like random, like people who might have been involved in conversations at some point.
right. Well, here's actually what Demariel said to me in character on our OT channel last night about the directness and indirectness of Ome. He literally said, if she meant to harm you, she would be direct. Violet fire would be flying through the heavens. These dreams may be strange and fearful, but they are blessings, I think, or something like them.
Well, yeah, because that's the that one I think is I've always enjoyed Demariel because like well, I mean Ethne does it a little bit too. But there will be other gods who don't really stick up for Ome as much because she's kind of weird and creepy. But Demariel seems to have always been the most like he's always been the most like a protective big brother.
Right.
And I really appreciate that about whoever is taking over him right now.
Yeah.
And also he's right. If Ome wanted to kill you, she'd
Right.
just fucking do it.
Well, she literally
Like,
had just threatened Sarian like a few days before that by throwing a boulder at him or whatever.
yeah, he threw
So,
a rock at her to give her food. And
yeah,
she was like, "If you throw a rock at me again, little man," like she has no problem saying to you what she wants to say to you.
right,
But I think the dreams are meant to make you. She's not trying to impose a thought or a conclusion upon you.
right.
She's giving you the tools you need to come to a conclusion on your own, to make you be introspective. And I think that it's kind of a disservice to because every dream I've seen written out is really well written and always has a little bit to do with the person who gets it.
Yeah,
Like Rasani is a troll and very tied to Stonebridge. So bringing up Stonebridge shows one, you have somebody who's writing this that's paying attention to the role play of the people that they're giving these threads to. And two, it didn't tell me a conclusion. It gave me things to think about and
yeah,
and symbolism to look at. So I really hope that Honorian kind of opens up more to this dream RP. I think that it's a really good thing for the city as a whole for us to be having these conversations.
yeah. Yep. And since it's just me and you on today, we're probably going to talk about a lot of things that are within our own little bubble. And I know that's not always interesting to everyone, but it is what it is. It's just what we have right now
Yeah,
for a
we couldn't
weekday
get
episode.
anybody else on today, unfortunately.
But I
We thought we were getting Eosin, but then he left. So
he 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 popped his head in and then he ran away, and I don't know
yeah, he
why.
ran off.
It was kind of like
But
when he was at Landward Gate the other day.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, there was an ad playing.
I
Okay,
see.
so they missed some conversation we were having. I see. Um, yeah, I think we've had and people outside of Anorian. Well, uh, people have been having some mostly Ome's order because the minute that there were dreams, people went to or at least I did. The minute Rasani had a dream, she ran to Eosin. Even though she wants to beat the absolute shit out of him right now, like she does want to just hit him over the head with something. She also knows that Eosin is the seer, and that means that she should probably go ask the seer why she's seeing things. So I think I really hope that more people decide to engage with this the way that is fun. The fun way to engage with it is not to see it as a punishment. It's to
Right.
see it as a way to open up conversation. Um,
Yeah. I never thought it was a punishment, but in my for my own dream it was like I said before, it's basically was like these are all these awful things that can happen if Norian lets the warlord in, and I'm just like you're preaching to the choir, man. Like that's already my character's beliefs. But
right, and I think that that is
but maybe it was more of a reassurance in that case rather than a
well,
warning
yeah,
that
because
like
I don't think the dream has to be like Rasani's was certainly a warning, but Rasani has also always been very anti warlord.
yeah,
So like I don't think that she's picking people who are because like nobody in Anorian is pro warlord that I'm aware of. If they are, they have to be secretive about it because we
right.
ban his worship. Um, but I think that I think that people assume that it is supposed to be this punishment for not being involved with the raid on Spine's Reach or for this that or whatever, and I don't feel that's what it is.
Right.
I feel it's meant to be like, hey, you know uh once upon a time, if a shadow god had offered to rebuild your docks for you, you would have told him to go to hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that it's this. I think it's to be like, hey, you guys aren't anywhere close to letting him into your city, but he's going to. It's not so much you guys are doing the wrong thing as much as it is he will take advantage of your goodwill.
Right.
Is what I think it is. And most people don't want to hear that.
Right.
And I think it's a good conversation for a Norian to have.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely brought up some interesting stuff with a lot of different people. It's like it's interesting to me because like, again, as somebody that's been as a character that's been very anti Bamathis the whole time and
Yeah,
held the same opinion about it for like 15 in-game years now. It's
yeah.
interesting to then see like I've had conversations in character like even this morning with Kalina, and like she's like I wish more people felt the way you do. I'm like and then I'm thinking to myself, wow, like that seems like a big. I mean, maybe not, but like that just the opinion has never been that I've had has never been super popular. So it was kind of like weird for me to be like, wow, somebody actually like understands what I mean for once.
I mean, I think honestly, and I know a lot of people will be like, well, but Mathis had nothing to do with the Accords, but they're intrinsically tied. The Accords came about during the event in which Bamathis is born. And honestly, I think that now Bamathis knows about the Accords, and because his quote unquote purpose lies within the Accords themselves, is the fighting against threats from the Albeidi, that it's one of those things where it's like it wasn't supposed to be tied up in Bamathis, but now it kind of is.
Right.
Because I would venture a guess that if Bamathis told, let's say Bamathis said to the Carnifex, so there, I feel that there's an Albedi threat from somewhere. You need to invoke the Accords. That they would convince Bloodlock to do it.
Right.
So that gives a god that we shouldn't be interacting with some power over the Accords that we have made with cities.
Yes.
And I mind you, like I said on the last stream, I don't think the Accords themselves are terrible. I understand why people want to keep them. And I also understand why some people wouldn't want to keep them.
Maybe.
You're right. You are right, Keegan. Delete Varian. You're correct.
Maybe
You
we
can't
will
say
one day.
it in the game though, because then you get kicked out of your city and your guild and everything.
Right.
You have to say it in secret, quietly to other people who agree with you. But yes, delete Varian. um, so it's. I think that this is an interesting conversation to be having because again, when you're talking about the Accords, it's like you said, we're talking about something that was written in game 15 some odd years ago.
Right.
So it's not unreasonable for some people to go, maybe we need to go back to the negotiating table. But nobody seems to want to.
Right. So it's like
and I think that is a conversation for all of the cities to have. A couple of unpopular opinions have been dissolving the Accords outright. Well, actually, I would argue that Durin has suggested that by leaving them. By just outright saying we're done. See ya.
Yeah.
I would say that Durin has suggested dissolving the Accords.
I would guess that there's probably a certain percentage of people that is not interested in continuing it in Anorian.
Yes, it's. I would say that there are probably people who are disinterested in continuing it in Anorian. I would say that there are people in every single city that are disinterested in continuing the Accords. I'm sort of the opinion. As a player, I'm of the opinion that I understand why people want to keep them because there was a habit for a long time with big events like this to bogart them, where players from one side would purposefully keep players from another side out of an event, and that feels shitty. Like, there are some events that are so specifically for one side or the other that you're like, okay, whatever. But then there are other events where it's like, okay, you're just being an asshole. Mm-hmm. And I can understand why people like something in character that forces people to put on a get-along shirt and share events with each other.
Yeah.
In character, Rasani thinks that they're too vague.
Right.
She thinks that they can be, they yes, the cities have to vote on them, but right now we had, like, in the game and in the world that Rasani lives in, there is such a culture that if you say something or do something against one of these other cities while the Accords are in effect, or let's say you were the one city that held out to not enact the Accords, then you're a traitor, you don't want to save Sapience, you're an Albedi sympathizer, this. So Rasani thinks they're too vague, and that there needs to be very strict ground rules for when these things are in place.
Yep.
I think that that's really good RP to have. I honestly don't know why city leaders wouldn't jump at the opportunity to get to have a loud and, like, aggressive negotiation session with leaders from other cities. That sounds so goddamn fun.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm not a city leader, so, what do I know? But, yeah, I just think that, I don't know. I think that, there's a lot of things that we talk about, like, and I've seen us talk about several different topics in, like, the public Discord a few times over the past couple years, and we always come back to it, and it's like, why don't we do this thing? And then it's always like, well, you see, 5 to 10 real life years ago, this happened that was real bad, and so we just shouldn't do it anymore. So it's like, I don't like that take. I feel like just because something awful happened forever ago that you can't, like, go back to the well and try it again and do better. you know?
You absolutely can. I do understand people's trepidation though, because I mean, you know, it's still what it is. Like it sticks with people. And Atolia is changing. The culture of
Yeah.
Atolia is changing and becoming, in my opinion, it's becoming kinder. And I think that that's fantastic. But I can understand why people who have been playing it for so long, who, even though it's becoming kinder, the majority of their experience is with a crueler game. I can see why they have that trepidation. I don't think it's a reason to make an in character decision, but I can understand why, as a player, you'd be like, yeah, I get it, but I'm also like, you know. But I think that there's no reason to try negotiating again. And there's no reason that, it can't be a spur of the moment thing. Where an Albedi shows up, the leaders meet, and they go, okay, are we willing to put things aside this time to help each other, or are we just going to. Because, and this is a sort of a weirder take, let's look at Skythrone. Which I don't think you were here for that
I
event. Or
was.
were you?
Yeah,
You
that
were?
was
Okay. There
shortly.
was
That was like a
somebody I was
month.
talking to.
That was like a month or month and a half or
You were
less.
new.
Yeah.
Or you weren't new, but you were new on this character.
Yes.
Newer on this
Yes.
character. Yeah.
It was probably an
Um
aspirant, I think, still. So.
yeah, yeah. So it was a newer character for you.
Yep.
So Skythrone, for
Yep.
example. In that instance, we were given a real life day
Yep.
to try to convince the people of Skythrone to turn their back on Hiva. Now, there's a lot of complications around what is essentially cultural genocide by asking these people to give up their culture and their gods. That is also, you're going to feel guilty about it. And I think that that's an important thing to allow characters to feel, is guilt around it. But even so, let's look at it and say outright, let's say that you think you're doing the absolute right thing regardless by converting these people. We were given an in-game week to do so, and then after that it was just understood that they were going to march in and kill everybody. And then it was understood that you were going to help them march in and kill everybody. And then it was understood that if you disagreed with going in and killing everybody, you were a traitor, you were a coward, you couldn't be trusted, all this stuff. You were berated by city members, by enemies, but sometimes by your god.
Right.
Like, at the time, I didn't get berated by the ethne that was there,
I
but I
was
did get
in.
scolded.
I was in the order with you at the time.
Like, we got scolded for having
Yeah.
trepidation.
Well, also she
And
was like, "Well, you don't have to kill these things or whatever, but you need to be there to help
you
clean
need to be
up
there to help.
afterwards."
Yeah,
Yeah.
regardless of what it was. So, for example, I don't think that there's anything wrong with going back in, and this is something that in character I have been advocating for the past couple of days, is at the very least going back in and going, hey, this is what we will help you with specifically. So you can't call on the Accords and then go, Enorian, why aren't you helping us wipe out Mitrine? They're worshipping something that isn't our gods. Clearly it's Albedi. We get to go, no. We agreed to help you with these specific things against Albedi. And then that still allows for us to have conflict. Because let's say, no, we won't help you with that, and if we think you're wrong, we're still going to fight you. So then you open up this avenue for actual conflict where the players have decided it. Your god, hopefully your gods are not going to step in and go, hey, no, you have to help them with this. They're going to go, okay, you made these treaties. This is what you want to do. This is what you're going to do. Because we couldn't get any more time. We tried with Skythrone.
Right.
With Mogedu, it was very much that we were going to. It became a bigger story. It became a liberation point for Mogedu, and there's a lot of good change that came from that for the culture of Mogedu, but there was also a loss of something that was theirs from a race that has already lost a bunch. So it's a bittersweet sort of thing. But the Sky Throne thing, I think, is a great example of a a change to the Accords that there's no reason why somebody in a spirit side city shouldn't want, other than an unwillingness to lose the ease of being able to say, well, we've agreed to share these big events. And I think that's kind of what's driving it more than anything else.
Yeah.
Which is, like I said before, is not a great role play reason to not go to the table with the Accords.
Well,
And this isn't to disparage anybody who has good role play reasons for not wanting to do it, because I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are several people who have really thought about what their character thinks and feels and have decided that they really believe in the Accords. But I'm also willing to bet that there is a good number of people who just like the fact that it kind of forces us to put on a get along shirt, and that's one less stressful thing that they have to deal with.
yeah. Well, whatever's gonna happen with it is gonna happen with it, and that's what we all
Absolutely.
like to see. Natural, organic,
Ex-
as we like to
Conflict.
throw out. Yeah, conflict, role play, whatever.
Organic conflict, absolutely. I'm excited for whatever's coming. I think that it'll be a lot of fun.
And obviously, Kalina replaced Isia last night as Vanguard,
Yeah,
and
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 Isia had been doing
she's
it for a long time, so
well,
I definitely understand wanting to take a step back from being Vanguard.
yeah. But what I was gonna say is not so much anything about Isia, but obviously Kalina's probably gonna be doing things a little differently than her. So
Oh, of course.
and it was interesting to me for her to even like honestly care about my opinion, like in character. I mean, like, so this morning I got up kind of early, about 8 or 9 o'clock this morning, and there wasn't hardly anybody around, because like when you become city leader, there's like a million people sending you tells all at once and stuff. So I couldn't really do
Right.
that last night with her, but like this morning she actually got to like talk to me in character and stuff, and it was interesting. Like I honestly thought it was going to go poorly, and it just everything. I was like saying things, and she was agreeing with them, and she was saying things to me, and I was agreeing with them, and I'm just like, what? Like, it was a weird turn from like what had just happened before she became Vanguard at the Landward Gate that you were there for too.
Yeah, yeah. I think
But it was good. I mean, it was interesting. I don't know,
yeah.
but yeah, like one thing to kind of lighten the mood a little bit, one thing I did want to mention that we did, and you were there for it, that like not everybody here in chat's gonna know about, that was fun, was when we did that little scavenger hunt thing for the Templar recently.
Yeah, very cool. That was very fun. I did not participate because I felt like I wanted newer Templar to, you know what I mean? When
Yeah,
you're an old player like I am, or like you are, like, or Kalina, who has a bunch of artifacts and stuff, it feels better to let newer guild members go and do this stuff and find things and that kind of thing. But I thought it was very cool. It's a good way, particularly, and in fact, we used to have that as a page requirement. Is you would have to somebody would follow you, and then they would tell you, what they wanted you to bring them to, and then you'd have to do it. When I became a page, it was to show me where these big places were in the city
hmm,
or around that were important to the guild, so that I could prove that I knew my way around the grid.
yeah.
So I think it was great that you guys did it.
Well, so the way it came about was it was kind of funny. Like I had a bunch of the decorative gift vouchers. I had like
Right.
20 some of them. And I went to Kalina because I was going to give them to her. And then I went to her and she's like, "Wow, I already have a ton of these. Like, how many do you have?" I'm like, "Oh, we both have a ton of them." And then I was like, "Well, why don't we do a thing where we like make boxes and then we give away these vouchers to like the novices essentially." And then we started brainstorming about it to make it even better. And then eventually what we came to was that we were going to make, and she did all the clues. I did one of the clues. I did the one about Demariel's temple, but she did all
Right.
the other ones. And we did 20 clues she came up with, and then she had me figure out the prizes based on like what we had, and like she decided to set aside 100 credits, guild credits for it. So then I split that obviously, and we had 20 boxes. So we made these little scrolls, 20 of these little silver stained scrolls that I had to write on all of them individually and spend time doing that because when you
Yeah,
snipe.
that is perhaps my biggest because I have made pamphlets before. You
Yeah.
cannot mass produce those. You
Yeah,
just
it's a pain in the
you
butt.
gotta write on all of
Yep,
them.
and it doesn't take you to the editor right away. You have to wait like what, like 5 to 6 seconds for it to.
Yeah,
So I had to
it's
do that
time
20
consuming.
times and then paste the thing in. But it was fun, and then basically I made it like I had a prize layout for each box, and I made sure that we had like dyed boxes because I have a box design of my own that I've had for a long time with my logo on it, and
Yeah,
it's dyeable. So we made sure that we talked out what colors it should be. So we went with red and green and gold because those are all Christmas colors. And
yeah,
then it was a lot of fun. And then what the idea was is to at these locations, these 20 different locations that they find by clues. I switched to Sisson so that we could conceal the boxes. Because I don't think Kalina didn't even know what I meant by that. She had never done concealment before as a Sisson. I was like, yeah, you can like hide these things in rooms. And then the places that we could actually do it, I buried them instead. Which I didn't know burying something. I don't know if you guys know this. It takes like 13 seconds of balance, which is pretty
it
brutal.
does. Yeah, yeah, it takes some
Um,
time.
but I stayed in Sisson, and like I would, she'd tell me what the next clue was, and I would go hide it in that place as Sisson, and stuff like that. And then I would stay phased and see who got there first. So, but it was a lot of fun. We gave out a lot of credits, a lot of decorative gift vouchers. And like I said last show, I think the decorative gift voucher thing is genius. Like it's genius in a way that's really simple. But I just love the idea of like a bonus for a promo only being able to be given away to someone else. I think that that's great for Christmas season.
Absolutely, I think it's a good time of year to be get more giving and more generous with things. Um, you do still have a bounty on your head for that.
Yep.
One day I'll come and find you, but goddamn if it isn't hard to find Sissa. It's impossible to find you guys anywhere.
Well, I remember when I went this past like May, I think it was when I came back. Like one of the first days I was back, I went to the farmlands and I saw a thaumizer go off at the entrance to our farmlands. I was like, "What in the world?" And I didn't even know what it was at first, and then I figured it out. And I probed it, and it was made by Ceremus. When you know it.
Yeah, I who else has it? Nipsey has a bounty right now.
Yes, there's only
Who
two
was it
two
that?
active bounties in Anorian right now. It's
Well, yeah,
Ceremus and Nipsey.
because Farron's I don't feel bad because he had a bounty. And I'm trying to get over that urge I have to feel badly for catching people off guard. Um, and so I asked Siren to hey, can you let me use your wings so I could get into that room? Because I'm not about to shell out
Right?
2K credits
Yeah.
for something I don't really care about.
Yeah.
I have a big puppy as my mount. I do not have any interest in never using my dog again.
Right.
But sometimes people hide there after they talk shit. And like the one I have had people helping me learn PK and stuff, and the one rule I was taught by the person who is well, I've been taught a few different rules by this person, but one of them was talk shit and get hit. So, like, if you're hiding in the wings room, I'm gonna find a way to
Right.
get in there. Nipsey has a pretty high bounty right now for an Orion. We don't
Yeah.
usually do super high bounties.
Well, you know.
Um, but it's pretty ballsy to run into a city that you're banned from and then try to kill somebody within that city. Two
Yeah.
people
Two
within that
people,
city.
two people in my shop, and also started by pitting us or trying to. That was the
Yeah,
funny part. I just walked out of the room, and then that was fun.
so it you know, it is what it is.
It
I
was a
think
weird situation. I was like, okay, I'm all right then.
speaking of bounties though, Estherport has a new bounty system that I'm actually
Yeah.
quite excited to see how it goes. Because I do like that they put that there has to be a real PK reason to put the bounty out. Um, So you can't just have somebody being like, "Well, I don't like the player of this character, so here's
Well,
5,000 gold to go kill them."
you know, or
So
I have thoughts about that, especially as somebody that was bountied for something I couldn't mechanically do. But all right,
I mean, that's the thing is if you think you're bountied for an unfair reason, you can always reach out to the admin.
I did, and they
Um,
said it was fine.
well, then it's fine.
I guess
That's
so. I
what
mean,
it is.
you just say you can kill
Um,
somebody's
but
cows when you can't do it, so whatever.
um, and I think there is, and again, I assume this happened with old leadership of the game. So that is, that's a different kettle of fish altogether. There is going to be a learning curve for people, I think. I think that there is going to be a learning curve for it. I think that there's going to, but what I like about it is that there's going to be several superfluous bounties. What I am kind of hoping comes from it is more competition when trying to get a bounty. Because right now, at least in Honorian, if there's a bounty, there's maybe 2 or 3 of us that try to get a bounty, and usually we care more about, because we're Honorian, so we care more about seeing an evildoer, kind of get theirs than we do about who gets the bounty. But in Esterport, it's going to be just a bunch of dipshits who fight in the sect getting a
Right.
notification or something that, like, hey, somebody put money on this guy's head. I kind of am hoping that there's going to be more ways to have, even if it doesn't devolve into PK, just insulting people and chasing people around. And
I'm not gonna lie. I really hope that they use this opportunity to have, when it makes sense, to have NPCs bounty people. I would laugh so hard. Like for example, if Beck like decided they wanted to bounty Church for all that stuff that happened during mining,
right.
I
Yeah.
think that would be rather comical, but I don't know.
I think it would be, and I don't know if this is something that. Yes, one, bounty hunters killing each other while the mark sneaks away is pretty hilarious. Two, I'm kind of hoping it lets NPCs put bounties on people. Like, let's say somebody comes into my tavern and kills my bar wench. Then she gets up and she's pissed about it. So she goes and pays 5 grand to put a bounty with the
Right.
sect on his head.
That's what I'm
I think
saying.
that it could be fun, yeah.
Yeah.
To have NPC bounties would be a blast. Um, I think I don't know. I love the idea of you finding out who is giving you a bounty or whatever, and it's just some little old lady NPC that you pissed off at some point. I think that that's great. I
Yeah.
think it's spectacular.
Like like Wyatt just said in chat, I think players are starting to shake off the cobwebs that settled in place under ye old previous producer, new avenues for conflict and interaction. Yeah. Well, I think that also comes with you guys making new systems for us too, which is also great. It's I think it's a lot of both, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. Like, we haven't seen a lot of battlefields right now because the accords are in effect,
Right.
which again is another thing with negotiating the accords. I see no reason why regular conflict can't continue when Yavalimon isn't making himself known to the plane. That would be another thing to really put into accords so that you could have, people setting up battlefields between guilds or whatever. But let's say you're in the middle of that battlefield and then Yavalimon shows up, then you kind of, with the accord, you have the agreement of, okay, we'll finish this later, and then you're dealing with the actual threat. I think that that's totally fine. Um, but right now, people don't really do it because they're worried about, you know, well, is this okay with the accords going on? Nobody has done a battlefield in a city yet.
Right.
I suspect that that might be incoming between Spines Reach and
Yeah.
Durant.
I was kind of mentioning that on the official Discord earlier, but then I had a second thought. I was like, isn't it? Can't you not do one in a city, or am I thinking of something else? I can't remember. Maybe that was when we were talking about like foci not spawning in cities and stuff. But I would
Um,
definitely love to see like because there was talk about raids and stuff earlier today, as we do every once in a while. but like we
Well, because it's
do.
it's one of our post knighthood things, so people will often throw around the
Well,
idea of doing a raid
they were
somewhere.
just generally talking about raids earlier in the official Discord, and
Oh, I
like
see, I see. I thought we
like
were talking in character. My
no,
apologies.
like and like I said on there, it's like there's all this talk about the way raids used to go, and that's why we don't do them anymore. But now we have battlefields, and I'm pretty sure you can do them in cities.
Yeah, so I suspect that if you can do battlefields in cities, that's great. Because yes, one of the biggest problems I had with raids was that some people didn't know when to quit. And people could be like, oh, well, you could just not engage with it or whatever. It's like, you can't really. Because when somebody is raiding, they're going into every room, they're killing anybody they come across, or in the case of the 6, I want to say, hour raid of Anorian at one point, they're lighting fires. And then you have to run around and put them out. Your guards are getting killed. You have to deal with it. There is no just ignore it.
Right.
So, battlefields being like, okay, we want to raid you. We're going to do it for, this amount of time. It's going to be in your city, because it also gives you sort of the element of role play. Is, you Bloodlock is far enough away that realistically speaking, if they decide to march an army on you in Anorian, you're going to have some notice. So it gives you the role play of everybody's preparing for an army is marching on you. You get a little bit of time to get your troops ready, and then it increases the role play that the city that is being raided gets to have, and it makes sure that plus it declares a winner, which I think is why people didn't know when to quit with raids, is because they want to win. But as long as people are fighting, there isn't a winner. So there being like a declared winner at the end of this thing, I think will reduce that amount of irritation with raiding as well. Yeah, Eladon, you are never going to have permission to plant battlefields for the city of Anorian because we'll never stop fighting. We'll never stop fighting.
and
We'll just
Norian
always be
and
fighting.
Norian will end up in a whole another elemental plane of existence. Is what'll
Yeah,
happen.
it'll just it will never stop fighting if Eliodon is able to set up battlefields.
But yeah, like
Because he'll set them up with Anorian against Anorian if he really wants to.
as somebody that hasn't got to do a battlefield yet, and also they're also still fairly new. What I wonder is when it makes the instance of the area, does it still have all the NPCs in it, like all the guards and all the NPCs that aren't guards and stuff like that?
Right,
I
right.
have no idea. So
That, yeah,
well, my question about that was okay. It does not. All right, so you
it does.
can't.
Okay.
Well, I just wondered how that would work with guards in relation to a city.
With guards, because that's also like it's expensive to rehire guards and stuff like that. But again, if raids aren't usually happening, all the time. If it's like and also with the battlefields, if you're like, look, you want to raid us at 2 a.m. when nobody is the fuck awake, that's not gonna work. You're able to go, no, we're not doing this with you. Maybe pick a time when when you're able to do it.
Yeah.
Um
Don't mind me, just editing novice project on stream here before I forget to do it. There we go.
I mean, that's, I think declining the field for a reason of, hey, we don't have anybody awake, so this raid isn't really going to be any fun for you, is a perfectly valid reason to decline the field for a raid. But we'd actually discussed at some point with the raid with the Templar and Carnifex, the idea that perhaps if you no, we don't want to play is one thing. And I think putting something in where it's like, hey, if you decline a certain amount of battlefields in a row, maybe there's some kind of consequence for it, I think is fine. Or it declares the other team the winner automatically, sort of
Right.
thing. Because, yeah, I agree. It would suck if you can't do a raid because they say, no, we don't want to play.
Yeah, that's true.
But I do think I do think that it's fine. It's better in a context where, let's say, you've got, Anorian decides they're going to raid Bloodlock, and they do it specifically at a time where they know there's only newbies on. That sucks for those newbies. They're going to lose XP. They're going to be the only ones there. It's. I think it's a good way to avoid situations like that. And maybe there has to be a whole different system that sort of works for raids. But and again, Eric's, you're right in that we shouldn't keep holding on to bad things that happened sort of in the
Yeah.
past
Well,
of the game. However, until you've been part of a 6 hour long raid where somebody was lighting fires all the time and killing all your guards and being an asshole about it, then it's like, of course you're going to have that trepidation.
right, but like I get that, but it's like, that was a whole different set of people and variables for, and variables as in the players and the administration and everything that exists in the game back then compared to now. Like I don't like the idea of being like, we're not going to do something because this just wound out bad about 6 years ago. So, but it is what it is. I'm one person again, so that's just my opinion.
Battlefield, I'm not sure why we are under the percentage raids are intentionally one group saying they want to impose their will on another. Battlefields is two groups agreeing. Honestly, the reason that I like Battlefields for raids is because it kind of guarantees that because like and Templar has a post knighthood thing for raiding. I would feel absolutely like cheated if I planned this raid to get my post knighthood thing and nobody was able, like Bloodlock had one person able to contest me. Is really what it boils down to. And sure, I can go, well, we'll try again, but how many times do I have to try again until there's actually a fight against this raid? Um, so you don't necessarily have to use battlefields at all. That's just sort of why I would like to try using battlefields for raids, because then it guarantees that there's actually some fun to be had and not just you run
Right.
through, you kill a bunch of mobs, and then you go home and
Yeah.
go, yay, we won. Because that's nobody raids because they want to kill a bunch of guards. They raid because they want PK.
Well,
And
it's
when two groups agree to a battlefield, then you're guaranteed PK.
what I was gonna say is that like it is weird to think that like while you're doing a city raid that is a battlefield, everything seems like it would be a good idea, but then when you think about the setup and the reason for it, it does start to fall apart then. Um, because like Wyatt said, it is like imposing your will on someone else. Like that's what a raid is. It's not agreeing to an honorable city, inside city conflict, which is what a battleground would be. And
Right.
I don't know. I think we'll see it eventually, and I think it's one of those things where like we think it's gonna end up good, but then we just all kind of think it's meh, just kind of like what he's saying. But until we try it, I wouldn't say that 100% either. So I'd rather see it tried than to not be tried at all, personally, even if it fails. So
Yeah, that's sort of what my feeling is like you might as well try it before you blow it off entirely as an option. Um but I don't see any fun to raiding without knowing that you're going to have some kind of resistance.
I mean, we could do that, Wyatt. I'm sure we've talked about it before with the whole like doing spirit side war games to
War
prepare.
games. Well, I think Battlefield is perfect for war games. I think that Battlefield is an ideal way to use
Like
war
we
games.
could even set up a battlefield inside of one of our cities and as a war game, and we could like inside of the instance make our own objective too, with crafting, and things like that.
Yeah,
So I mean, we could even like there's a ton of things that we could do as players with this battleground system, and it's
absolutely.
battlefield
We
system.
just we just haven't really gotten
Yeah,
the opportunity to with Yavalamon showing up
yeah.
and that kind of thing. Um, so Ia said you redeemed use my topic. What's the topic? Tell us your wisdom, young man.
Well, I'm like trying to pay attention to Scanlan while we're doing this, and he's like dropping bombs on me here. I don't
Oh,
know.
there you go.
I don't know if you see it. I don't know if you're watching the stream or anything.
Um, I cannot read it because my
Oh,
eyesight's
okay.
bad.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
We're on the topic of raiding. I'd like
Oh,
to
see,
ask
problematic for
this:
Dern.
was it OOC problematic for Duran to raid during the Copperhead event?
I'm not from Spines Reach, so I can't answer that question for you. Really, it's up to Spines Reach if they feel it was unfair to them. Where I wasn't impacted by it, it feels a little bit like fighting a battle for somebody who didn't ask me to fight a battle for them. So you know, I think it is. I think only Spines Reach players can tell you if you were OOC out of line for doing that. I think that a Norian can think that Eosid did a reckless and stupid thing. But I think out of character, we have no right to judge your decision to do that. That's just my feeling on it.
Yeah, I think that really does come down to the people that were there. I didn't have much to do with any of that whole situation. I just heard about what happened from various people, and I didn't take part in any of it. I haven't even been to Spines Reach since the event happened. So
I think can do events belong to people? Um, I think sometimes they can. So, like for example, uh, if we were like okay, some years ago, the Templar had a very small little event where we had Yonda's cloak delivered to us and Sir Savelian's sword. So this was like a big RP moment for us. Um and we thankfully did not have anybody, kind of interrupt us. But if we had somebody come in and try to then make this moment about them, I think that that's kind of shitty. But that then you just kind of beat the shit out of them and remove them from your guild hall. Um, so I think that there are some events I feel that can belong to groups and guilds. Like I didn't really get involved at all in the drop of wardens because that RP was not my RP to have. That was clearly something that was important and influential to the Sentinel. So if I had gone in there and tried to make that moment about the Templar or about Rasani instead, I would expect that people would tell me out of character that that was a dick move of me. But something like Copperhead, where it has been a or a worldwide thing that was happening, and then it just happened to come to a head in Spines Reach. I don't think that that event belongs to Spines Reach because it had been a worldwide thing that had, we had gotten notifications and news things about it the whole time. So I don't think Copperhead belonged to anybody, but I do think guilds can have events that belong to them, and interrupting those feels a little bit more like a dick move to me. But a worldwide event doesn't belong to anybody. Like you are this, it's a thing that was given to the world at large, and just because it wound up in Spines Reach, that doesn't mean that other people couldn't have engaged with it. Like shit, I might have gone to go try and watch the Copperhead thing happen if I was an enemy to Spines Reach.
right.
So
Well,
it's what it is.
if the pools didn't want you to be able to do that, they would have made it to where you couldn't do that because
Yeah, they
remember,
have no problem with killing people who are interrupting, and they did in
well,
fact.
not
If
just that,
they
but like
yeah,
during the remember the Villamo thing recently? You literally couldn't walk into the area; it wouldn't let you.
right, right.
So, you know, I think that I know that's kind of like a simplistic answer, but I think that whatever you think your character would have done and you're able to do, then that's fine. You know, it's one of those things. I think it's fine. I don't know. I don't think it was a dick move, and I didn't really hear a lot of Spirit players say that either. In my circle of friends in spirit. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that the person who did the thing is going to hear more about how it was a dick move than we are. As for Takaias, you think the Copperhead thing was a Spines Reach event more than a worldwide? I think Copperhead destroying Spines Reach was perhaps a Spines Reach event, but up until that moment, when you guys locked him up and he decided to destroy Spines Reach, the entire world had been engaging with Copperhead because it was tied to the confluence, which the entire world had been engaging with. So I'm kind of the opinion that like maybe in that moment it was more a Spines Reach event, but it is really, you know, I don't know. It's a complicated area because yeah, he was trying to destroy Spines Reach, but before that, you guys locked him away. He had been engaging with the whole world, so it's a different it's murkier area than if it had started as a Spines Reach event solely.
yeah, yeah, we probably got about one more hour or so, Rosani.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, Rosani has D&D tonight apparently. So,
I do.
and also I'd like to be done before howling, so we can go for one more hour though.
Sure, yeah.
What else happened this past few days?
Um, so Enorian had he kind of relates to the dreams. I think Enorian is going through kind of a crisis, as it were. Um, and again, I apologize that so much of what we're talking about is centered in Enorian, but nobody else was wanted to come on, or could come on.
Hey, we could
And
get
you know,
Takaias to come on.
if Takai's wants to come on, then they are more than welcome to. But Enorian is going through sort of a thing right now where we are having this conversation about about where our duty against Shadow lies within these accords. I have an ad.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
wait.
Well,
I've never
Takaias,
cared less.
they've heard your voice before on the podcast. Remember?
Let's see. I love these ads because you see people acting in them, pretending to play a video game, but you can tell that they have never played a video
Right.
game in their whole fucking life.
Did you ever see the commercial for when Final Fantasy Shadowbringers was coming out and it had Tom Holland in it, pretending like
I
he
did
cared?
not.
Yeah,
We,
Tom.
Ian said we didn't talk about anything important. We just made fun of the ads that we had.
Yes,
It was like an ad of they were like, "Hey, this guy's totally playing Overwatch." I'm like, "No, he's not. His hands aren't in the right place. Get the fuck out of here with that."
that's right.
Um. Also, he didn't know what to do with May at all. They should have at least had him on Soldier because everybody knows what to do with that. The Warrior of Darkness. Ooh. I played
Yeah,
every console game ever is a button. Well, yeah, but this he was on a PC. He had his little keyboard. I think it was for like a fancy keyboard and mouse thing. But the guy in this commercial had clearly never touched Overwatch in his entire life. It was funny. I love that. I love when people in commercials have clearly never interacted with the thing that they're advertising.
yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I'm interested to see where everything goes. Yeah, I think it's fascinating how much we're talking about war right now in Anorian. And even though like the post that she made was like, "We're not going to war, but we might if this thing happens." But like we're
Um,
still all anticipating that the thing will happen probably. So
I mean, I think the biggest thing is some of the people who are most concerned or curious about like why are we talking about going to war joined. And again, I know people don't want things blamed on Tior. I'm not trying to do that. Regardless of your feelings on it, there was not a lot going on worldwide while Tior was in charge of the game. So we have a lot of people who joined Anorian who have only see us do RP things because that's all you could really do. And Honorian doesn't choose to go to war over nothing. So now we have actual things that we're like, okay, these are reasons why we might go to war. So we need to be prepared for it. So it's strange to them because they joined at a time where nothing was going on, and now all of a sudden everything is going on.
Yeah.
And this city that they've never heard talk about war before is now talking about war a lot. Um, and there's people are arguing all the time, and people are like, and it it makes sense when you look at it. The people who are arguing for one thing or another, you have Ascendral, who are, aside from Eliodon, I'm not going to insult him by saying that he's not gung-ho to fight, are scholars. They are there to learn and study things. And then you have the Illumini, who are holy priests. And then you look at the Templar, and most of the people who are saying stuff needs to change, we're being too soft, that sort of thing, are from the Templar. It's like, so I think that they're just now starting to see the conflicts that can arise within the city because nothing else had been going on before this. So, it is interesting to see us talking about war so much, but not because Honorian has historically not talked about war a lot, but just because we haven't in so long that people have forgotten what it feels like when we do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been an interesting road the last 2 years with this character to come in when I did around Skythrone, and then to now, and then obviously I was out for about 9 months or whatever it was, but it's definitely a lot different now than it was when I made the character.
Yes,
You're
yeah.
told, well, as a Templar, you're told these things in the ethos. You're told that you are supposed to be these things, but then your city is telling you not to do these things because of this. So it's like it's always been very
Well,
strange.
well, and I think that the biggest thing that people sort of how do I'm trying to figure out how to word this because this is a conversation I've had before, and usually sometimes I'll word it incorrectly and people will get mad about it, so I'm trying to make sure that I don't. I think that people forget that the most important part of the ethos of the Templar is to do what is right. So when you have like and sometimes doing what is right requires compromise, which a lot of people don't think of because we're valorous and we're not, we don't compromise anything to anybody. But when you look at, for example, Yavalamon, and you look at, okay, is it worse for me as a Templar to say no, I won't work with Shadow and let Yavalamon destroy the entire plane? Or is it worse for me to say, okay, I'll work with you. I'm not going to fucking like it, but we'll get him dealt with, and then I'll go back to dealing with you. And I think that the city sees that as an easy decision to make because it's rational. Um, but a lot of the time with the Templar, it becomes a matter of your oath.
Right.
And but that's sort of the thing, is like there is specifically in the Templar ethos that you're going to do what's right, and that if you think it's there is more wiggle room in the Templar ethos than people expect, but not in the same ways that there's wiggle room in like the Carnifex ethos, where the Carnifex are just like fucking kill people. It's not like we're going to be
Right.
okay with that. It's more like there's wiggle room because morality is not black and white.
Well, it's like, well, but like an example though that's pretty wild is like again the timing of when I made the character, and you
Mm-hmm.
got you learn all these things in the G helps as far as the ethos, but also like the things that you're supposed to learn about inside the progression system. And then I'm like on board with it as a character and as a person. I'm like, oh right, this is cool, this is how we're gonna do it. and then like a week later, you're at Skythrone watching a whole race of people get genocided, and being told to
It,
be okay with it, and it just like
I
it's bizarre.
certainly,
It's like bizarre, like I don't know.
and that's why that's one of the reasons why Rasani is so pro. We need to go back and adjust these accords because that sort of thing that sort of thing means nothing to a Carnifex. They don't give a shit that happened. But
Right,
when you look at a Templar, that kind of and you look at a lot of Templar players who were there for that, a lot of them role play that guilt follows them around and has followed them around and continues to follow them. So you do have these moments where you have to make the decision that you make at the time, and the only thing that's important about the well, there's many things that are important about the ethos, but the most important part is that when you screw up, you make it right. So that's kind of what it is. Um, is like, yeah, that's a jarring to a new Templar to have to do, and it was jarring to old Templar to have to do.
right,
And it was even more jarring to see allies and friends who were so on board with this pro sapience message that they were willing to do something that despicable and feel nothing about it.
right.
So like it's complicated, but that's what it should be. It's not satisfying to play a character who is good if it's always easy to make the choice to be good. It should always be a struggle because that's what it is in real life. It's not as simple as just saying, well, it's super easy for me to be. You wake up every single day deciding to be a better person than you were the day before, and that's it. It's more interesting to role play a character like that when it is a
Nice, Didi.
when if it's too easy to make your decision, then it's not going to be something that your character can grow from, is what I think. So like, yeah, it can be confusing, but that confusion is a good way to grow your character. Being good is never easy in real life or in games.
Hmm. Yeah, it's been an interesting last couple years.
Yeah.
And a lot can happen, and I've thought this my almost my whole life. I've always found it fascinating how we can pick one point in time, like right now, and then you can fast forward here in a year, and just imagine how much of a different situation you're in, even in real life, compared to like a year before. It's always
Yes.
vastly different for me.
Oh yeah.
Last a year ago, I was like sitting in Las Vegas, and now I'm sitting in West Virginia and streaming with Rosani.
Mhm.
Never would have imagined that would have been true a year ago. So who knows what's going to happen this next year, specifically in Anatolia. I'm sure there's some wild stuff ahead that we can't even think about yet, or that we can't even fathom that we're gonna go
Oh
through this
yeah.
year. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a great one.
It will be. It'll be good. I have no doubt in my mind that it's going because so far everything has been good. I know, um, like I said at the start, I know some people are frustrated by the dreams that they're getting and whatever. I think that that's just short sighted. And I know some people are not going to like to hear me say that it's short sighted, but it is. Anytime you get an interaction from it's I don't understand how you can go. I have gotten
Oh,
interaction.
great, Wyatt.
Um,
Thanks for that newsflash or that scoop.
fuck yeah. I don't understand how you can get interaction, pointed, specific, tailored interaction from a very busy Solani and blow it off.
Right.
I will never understand that.
I bet you
Or
there's
be
like people in Anorian that have gotten dreams that are like newer or they don't talk to
they
anyone.
have no
And
idea
yeah,
what it
they're
is.
like,
Yeah.
what is this? and they
Yeah,
just
that they just think it's something that happens
yeah,
sometimes.
or they just like got it at right. Like imagine if they're like, I'm not playing the Atolia no more, and like they get them while they're asleep, and they just never read them.
Yeah, I'm sure that there are some people who, because we do have people that log on only on the weekends. So
Right.
I'm sure that we have some folks that got one over this week that are gonna log on Saturday or Sunday and go, "Oh shit! Like what's going on?" So, I'm very, you know, I guess my big thing is why wouldn't you take something that's given to you as a chance to be introspective on your character and the choices that are being made, and run with it. And I don't know why you would assume that it is, and not for nothing, but you will know when you are being punished by a god. Like you'll know it. They are not subtle about it. Hearn bit somebody's head off, clean off in my tavern. That's a punishment. That is a god punishing you. You will know if you're being punished. Um,
I'm trying to
that's
make
the
I'm trying to make Takayas a voice chat avatar real quick. That's why I'm going quiet for a
Oh,
second.
that's fine. I can shoot the shit with the chat here while you do that. That's the thing, though, Eosid, is character development is what I imagine most role players are here for. Or I would assume so. Because what else are you here for? Like, it's, I don't know. I think there's a healthy mix of people assuming everything is punishment. And I know Enorian has a pretty hefty history of that. But I think there's an assumption that everybody thinks something is a punishment. I think there's an assumption that, I think there is an assumption that anything coming this soon after Eosid making a decision is a god punishing somebody for not listening to Eosid. And I think it would be true of any character. I don't think that it is. I don't think that's just something of Eosid. I think if the same thing had happened to any other character, they would think, "Oh, we're being punished for not listening to this character. Oh, it's admin bias. Blah 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 blah." And I think you're right to some degree that people don't want to. Yeah, I think that there are some people that have gotten to the point in their role play where they are more interested in just doing a slice of life kind of thing. And that's totally chill. But I think if you are interested in doing a slice of life kind of thing, then you need to be honest about that with the city that you lead. Because if you decide to go, well, we're not listening to these as a whole, as a city, then you are cutting off a city from some role play. Or you're convincing people that it's bad when maybe it isn't. And this is not great, I don't think. And this, I want to be very clear. I am not saying this about anybody who has had one of these dreams or is in an Orient. Nobody has said stop talking about these dreams. Nobody said you have to agree with me. That's not anything that has happened. But I'm just making the point that, if you are somebody who just wants to maintain the status quo, if you've gotten to that point, I honestly consider that a sign of burnout. That's a symptom of burnout, and you need to take a step back. Um, and that's fine.
Burnout is definitely real, especially for city
Burnout
leaders.
happens to everybody.
Oh yeah, it's all it
Like,
is. You have to have iron will in order to like do any kind of city leadership thing for like any more than like 6 months. I'd say like
no,
with regularity anyway.
Keegan, you know the rules about Firewhirl. If you're gonna cast it, go. I don't know. Go to Bloodlock or something. um, yeah, no, Takai's. I am also. God, what is my time? Probably not as impressive as yours. Let me see. Let me see. Stats. That's where I see it, right? Stat. I am at 482 days. In terms of my playtime in Atolia, I know a thing or two about burnout. Um, and I've just now started to start taking leadership positions again because when I first joined, I burned very quick and I burned very hot, and then I burned out. So I always advise people who have been leading for a long time, if you're finding you do not want change to happen or change stresses you out or something like that, or anything, if you're getting too stressed by the game as a whole, take a step back. Like, there's no shame in it.
I'm trying
I
to. We're
just
almost there on Takai's here. I'm just
All right,
I'm
cool.
finishing up
Uh,
the color of their
a-
name.
anybody else have I don't know. You don't have to redeem anything. Give me something to talk about while we wait for Takayas. So you can just keep hearing my fantastic baritone. I don't think I'm quite a baritone. I wish. My voice is lower than it used to be, but it's not as low as I'd like.
I
Uh,
could still kind of tell what your voice would sound like if it wasn't lower. It's fascinating to think about though. Let's
I
see.
used to have a very high voice.
Yeah.
I used to have a very high voice, and does okay. So I'll answer two of these.
Okay.
Takayas, I am so sorry. My favorite shadow is not actually Takayas. It is Elen, however people pronounce her name. With her live water, she's my favorite. My favorite metal to forge with is Keskish, because I like the idea of like a dark black and purple and blue metal.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll definitely go over that question. Takai's, come in now if you can.
Yes, the introduce a new god concept. What would be? I want to talk about that so bad.
All right, let me resize your avatar real quick.
Acarditera is also great. I'm a huge fan of Acarditera.
In the stream so I don't hear overlapping conversations, and there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I
We,
also have to mute the stream.
we can hear you now. Just you might need to turn yourself up a little bit if you can.
I will check my settings quick.
I can also turn you up on my end. Let me do that.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
Casket.
I'm maxed out on my end, so.
Okay, I just maxed you out on my end, so that's about as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Alright.
If I stop being able to hear you, I'll crank you.
And preemptive apologies for any coughing I do. I'll try to mute before I go into a coughing fit.
It's
Don't
okay,
worry
man.
about it. I don't care. I'm a very lucky person.
So,
I didn't think you two cared. I'm talking about the rest of the people.
Oh well, who cares? They're listening to us. They
That's
get to hear
right.
all your glorious coughing.
They are the audience.
Maybe
We are the
we'll
hosts.
start a. It's like Wiki Feet, but it's for coughing fits.
Right.
And you'll be the first. You'll be the first intro.
So, do we want to go? Do we want to start with what Wyatt just said? If you could introduce
Oh
a new god
yes,
concept, what would it be?
Takai, so you go first because you just got here, and I think
Right.
people are tired
You're
of listening
totally
to you
prepared.
Thanks for giving me time to think about this one.
Yeah, me too.
Honestly, I think about bringing back one of the god concepts. Lice or Kepri, like obviously tweaking their concept a bit, but um actually not Kepri anymore because it's just a prank thing and that wouldn't fly too well compared to when she first introduced. But a straight up god of renewal slash life would be
Lace. We used to have one.
Yeah, like
yeah, that's what I mean.
Lace Reborn
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah,
Bringing back one of the ones we've lost over the years.
absolutely.
I
That
tell
makes
you,
sense.
like that reminds me of an idea. Well, this would be kind of like picking from Empyrean's gods because honestly, I think a lot of Empyrean's gods were fucking awesome, like even more awesome than the Aetolia ones. I would love to see us in Aetolia have a god of the seasons because the god of the seasons on Empyrean was awesome. Like I don't know, it's hard to explain, but like I know Isid knows what I'm talking about because we were both in that order together. But there's a lot of
Do
ways
we
you can
have
go.
anyone even roughly analogous to that, or is that all straight up Heron?
Um, I think it was something that Lace took care of as well.
Lice was.
Lice. I think that was
Okay.
something that she did as well.
Look at Wyatt.
This is like simp. Okay, so
Okay,
there are
Wyatt,
there. Oh no, go ahead.
I say,
You have it out with Wyatt. You get
if
into a
I'm
fist
gonna
fight.
simp over anyone, it's not gonna be Lice. Trust me.
I think both Heron and Damaria, or not Damaria, Dar, see to certain aspects of her. I know Dar is now life and death, is my understanding. Um, but he's emo, so everybody just calls him like the god of death. He's got his little goth aesthetic. He does. He's goth, and he's been emo ever since he and his husband got divorced. So like,
Here
I
we
get it.
go. I knew you were getting to that one.
Well, but it's true. It is in the lore. That's what happened. So, it's I will still sometimes run into players and or I'll run into players on in both orders. That'll be like, I think my god would be happier if those two got back together, and that cracks the shit out of me. Like people out here trying to parent trap Dar and Avong.
Right.
Like fuck yeah. Um, I so there are some gods that kind of talk a little bit about what I think there should be a god of. Like Ethne brings it up sometimes. And like other gods kind of say it, but Ethne says it more than anybody else. But I would really like a god that is solely dedicated to the idea of like righteous and holy vengeance.
Right.
Like something that is dedicated entirely to this righteous fury and this like this because you've got justice in Damariel and stuff,
I
but
was gonna
his
say,
is sort of
it sounds like a tone down toning
It
it down. That sounds like Demario.
yeah. Well, it sounds to me like if you took Demario and made him edgy like Srain with like nipple rings and everything.
well, I think the thing is I don't even know that I want it tied so much into justice because like you can call it justice,
Yeah.
but I more like the idea of like just this god that because we don't really have and Ethne does sometimes encourage the idea of righteous fury. But we don't really have a god that their whole ass thing is just righteous fury.
Right.
Where it is a utter like I really would like that kind of thing where you because right now we don't really have anybody that appeals to players who want to play that kind of character. They all have to kind of find other things
The
that
closest we got
appeal
is
to them.
basically merging Demario with Mammothus
Oh
with his
God.
Well, here's the thing. Bamathus, and this might I'll watch Atolia just in case I get smoked for saying this.
I'm watching too now.
Bamathus is just a daddy's boy. Like when you break it down, Bamathus is just Varian's errand boy.
In his
And
defense, he is the newest one, and he was made specifically for that reason to boot. So
well, that
Yep.
that just proves my point that he's a daddy's boy. That
They-
he literally is just the god of being daddy's boy.
That's why every time he calls me in character boy knight or boy or whatever, I just kind of chuckle in real life. I'm like, yeah.
and I
Projecting.
think that that's great. I think that the people who are whoever's playing Bamathus is playing up this new god thing really well. That he's inexperienced, that he's still learning, all that stuff, and maybe he'll change as it goes on. But I would not call what Bamathus has righteous fury.
oh no, I'm not saying I would be. I'm saying that's where Demario would come in for the righteous part, but Mammothus
Right.
has the anger and the fury down. Maybe not anger, but strife.
Right, but that's like that's more the struggle. The that made strong through struggle is really what Bamathus is. I think it's more like taking the Inferno from Ethne and putting a little teeny tiny bit of like Arion in there.
So just a wild guess, and mostly just a joking stab at this. It's been how long since Ethne's been around? When's the new Fire God coming?
Ethne is around actually.
Burn. Huh?
I'm hoping that for once they don't just kill a fire god because they've done that forever.
Right.
That's what my joke was about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Ethne sticks around for a while because I think that she's interesting. I haven't gotten to see her be the Inferno in years. And let me tell you, when I first joined
Oh.
her, this bitch was almost constantly the Inferno, and I was obsessed with it. I
Well,
loved it.
I think she channeled the Inferno when she was like zapping Mule a few weeks ago. I think I can't remember. I know she was
Oh,
like pretty angry about it.
no, the Inferno is an entirely different form.
Right.
It is straight up the ogre that she has as her main body. The last time I saw her as the Inferno, she literally was like the visage that she had dissipated, and she crawled as like a lava fire being out of her forge. It
Nice.
was the coolest, sexiest thing I've ever seen Ethne
So
do,
she
and I
pulled a
want her to do
Samara?
it again so bad.
I'm sorry, the way you described it, I'm just imagining Samara just out of a forge instead of a TV.
She didn't look like a person though, but it had kind of that feeling of like dragging yourself out. It did
Right.
have that feeling. I think, I mean, Moana wasn't out at the time that this happened, but when she's the big lava monster is chasing after her kind of thing, it was a little bit like that, and it was very sexy, and I liked it a lot. Um, and we have an Ethne right now. We she's not like, and part of it is right now, interestingly enough, because of Yavalamon. Because if the two of them met, he could just consume her because she's fire. So I think that the reason Ethne isn't around a lot is because admin are kind of looking and going, you know what? We really do just keep hitting this same button of kill the fire god. Maybe let's have a different tune play
Right.
for a bit.
Maybe the fire god lives for a change.
Yeah,
Maybe.
right.
This is a Tolia, that doesn't happen.
Mm.
um, so right, exactly. Like you were there for that. Jocks literally sucked water out of Slife. So like
What?
this does
Wait,
happen
really?
occasionally. Yeah.
Okay,
The Jocks event was wild.
yeah, that I actually took a month away. It just happened to be the month of
Happened to be
Docs.
when that happened, yeah. Yeah, the Jocks
I
event was
actually
nuts.
apparently I logged in like once or twice during that month just to say goodbye. Here's my I'm taking a step back. Blah blah blah.
Right, right,
Apparently
right.
that once or twice during October was just enough for me to get an honors line. I actually asked admin to take that honors line off of me so I wouldn't be credited for it.
Huh.
The Jocks event was nuts. Um yeah, Eric's, were you here for the Jocks event?
No.
Okay. So the Jocks event is one the birthplace of the Accords. No. The Chaos thing was the birthplace of the Accords. So no, it wasn't.
Although one
They were
could
both
argue Docs,
intertwined. Yeah, that's
one could
right.
argue Docs was the birthplace of the chaos. So
Right. Yeah. So it's both. There, everything's so fucking intertwined.
yeah,
Like right now, we'll in a couple years we'll be like, well, wait, was that Copperhead was, and it all happens all at the same time. But that was sort of the birthplace of the Accords, because the Avaretti thing was nuts. When so Avaretti was super duper killed by the worst dad in the world, Varian.
Big Daddy V.
Um, yeah, he's a bitch. And you can quote me on that one.
Oh no,
Um,
look, he came back, realized he forgot his smokes, and fucked off again.
yeah, he's a deadbeat dad that goes out for cigarettes, comes back and bullies all of his kids. We had a conversation about this, I think, in one of the streams, is that I think the reason why things can be so confusing, in terms of like the Albeidi thing and why gods aren't willing to talk to us about it, is that Varian places children against each other. Um, and I think it's true both of Shadow and Spirit that way too. I honestly think that part of the big whatever is that our huge conflict is to play his children against each other to be distracted from how bad of a dad he is. Like
Yeah.
here's fucking 12 Nerf guns, shoot each other while I go buy some cigarettes and I'll come back in another 48 hours. Like, you know,
I'm
so
actually mind that.
yeah. And so the Jocks event was huge. It was where Bamathis came from. It was where we watched Arvaretti be destroyed. We learned that she was El Beatty.
I thought that aspect was already known,
To
or
my
was it not?
understanding, it wasn't. We weren't supposed to know about it. The
Okay.
gods knew about it. Like Damariel and Severn knew about it, and they
Right.
had, I think, I guess they've made a deal with her or something to have her become one of the Pantheon, and then she helped us. Or maybe she just didn't remember being El Beatty.
I think that
I
was the
don't.
case, that it was known she was Albedi, but she herself didn't know, or it wasn't
Yeah, like
an actual
Damariel and
part of her personality.
yeah, Damariel and Severn knew, I think, because we didn't. This was a
Like,
revelation to the players.
until Abominus came around, Demario and Seven were basically the head gods below
Yes.
Varian.
Damariel is still one of the head gods. Severn
Ever
got
since Amathus
demoted.
basically slapped Severn down to Spy Master and destroyed his order.
Yeah, so Severn got demoted. Um,
Has no
sucks.
order anymore.
Yeah, sucks to suck, buddy. But
Good grief.
um, but you know what? I prefer him to Bamathis. And that again is not anything against the person playing Bamathis. Rasani just hates that motherfucker. Um, so that was the birth of Bamathis, was the Jox event. Jox was so strong that Varian had to come down to deal with it. So that's sort of the interesting thing about the Yavalamon thing, is I don't know if we'll see Varian or not. Um I hope not. Just because I kind of prefer if he stays away for a little bit. Um just because, like, I want to see us solve a problem ourselves. Like, I know the gods are going to have to be involved because there's nothing we can do against Yavalamon, but I would like for the plane and the gods that are on the plane to find a solution to the problem without the help of the shittiest dad in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry for typing in chat instead of talking, but I just want to interrupt you. But yeah,
I do it all the time too. No
fair
worries.
enough. I'm also very much a backseat talker. Like, I'll wait till someone talks to me first.
right. I do that a lot too.
I'm also a shit poster in vocal form, so
Yes. Yes, you are. That's why you're here.
good. Okay.
You're here to do another ad for your guild, like on the podcast.
I forgot about that. What was my ad for the guild?
Yeah, you were like I forget, but it was really good. Like it was for the Illumini at the time.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was the one at the time.
Yeah.
I'll Rowan mentioning the secret plot twist is Varian playing all sides against each other so they can fight Albedi. My feeling, and Rasani's feeling actually, is that Varian does not give a single solitary fuck about anybody but himself. The reason the Albedi scare him is because they're the only ones who can do anything to him.
Yeah.
Rasani is very much of the opinion after, and really she didn't have much of an opinion of him because she'd never really seen him before other than in dying. But watching him kill off already, and I'll tell you what did it. I'm not even a follower of Ome. But the way he treated Ome in the Jox event had Rasani sit there and go, this guy is a huge bastard. What a fucking asshole. Like, to a child that if he made all of these gods the way they are, he made Ome that way, and then still treats her like shit because of the way that she is when
Right.
he did it to her.
Right.
So Rasani is very much, and that was a thing that we talked about a little bit earlier. You can't say fuck Varian very loud as a character. As a player, we all say it all the goddamn time. We're like, yeah, what an asshole. But as a character, you can't really say fuck Varian too loud.
All you can really do is just not say praise Varian, and that's not
Yeah.
about it.
You could say it in whispers to people or in letters to people that you know agree with you.
And even then, that's not guaranteed to not leak out.
Exactly. Unless you go to Albedos, and then you could go, man, fuck this guy, because they don't give a shit.
And Albedos, they don't have power there either, don't do they?
Varian does not know. When
Right.
you die over in Albedos, Mawadi sends you back.
Yep. Yep.
And Mawadi kind of picks up your soul before it can go into oblivion and be destroyed, like all souls are in Albedos. Kind of looks at you and then throws you back into the land of the living.
Huh, you don't belong here. Fuck off.
Yep. And then
Yeah, it's and my understanding is I would assume that he does that to people in Albedos too. Maybe it happens to us because we're not Albedi. Maybe if we
I
were
wanna say
Albedi,
I wanna say the death message actually does specify in some form that it's because we're not native to Albedos. It's
I haven't seen the Moati death message in a while. I'd have to go
Me
take a
either.
look at it again. Yeah.
yeah, I wanna say
Uh,
it's just because we're sapients dying in Albedos that saves us, in that case.
um. Yeah, because we had for example, we had ages ago. I was still fairly new to the game at the time. We had an event with the Mun Temple here, and we have a statue to the priestess who died, and we tried, like, because Templar had the ability to revive people, we tried, but we found we couldn't because her god had taken her. Mawadi had decided that her purpose was done and gently carried her to oblivion where she was done. It was over. We can revive people in Sapiens because if they're good people or if their souls aren't eaten by Dar or whatever, their souls are still there. So you can revive people. But when you, I guess, are decided that your time is done by Mawadi, your soul is destroyed because death is supposed to be the end for them. So it was very interesting to get that even though Mawadi is all the way over in Albedos, he still had the power to get his faithful and bring her to where she was meant to go. That was very interesting to me.
So, hot take, would this mean that the Albedi are actually Achaeans?
well, yeah.
I think
Probably.
Like, given
I
the
think
lore of how Aetolia as a whole came out.
I think that they're probably trying to. I think that may at one point have been the case. I think they're probably trying to avoid intertwining these games more than they need to.
Yeah.
Like I said, Aetolia is explicitly a splinter of Achaea, though.
Yeah.
On
It
Achaea's
is,
side, I mean.
but I suspect that they are still trying to, you know, to not have them so tightly interwoven. Because then so much more time has happened in Achaea than has happened here that you then get into, well, this has to happen because this happened over there. And then that doesn't really give us the opportunity to be the reason that, if Varian's our big bad evil guy, then if he was defeated in Achaea, that doesn't give us any chance to be the heroes of our own story. Somebody else has already done it if we're following that this is tied into Achaea. So I think that they're trying to pull away from that a little bit. Eric, did you ever say what kind of god concept you wanted?
Coming up with it on the spot would be difficult. My first thought would be, like I said earlier, kind of like I would probably take influence from the other games because they do have some things that we don't have here, like as far as god concepts.
Yeah, you mentioned God
And
of Seasons, but that's
yeah,
kind of
and I also on that game when I played my my demonic character, my bad guy character, I was in the Order of Wrath. Wrath was a very cool god there. It was called the Nemesis, Goddess of Wrath, and it was kind of similar. It felt like to what we have for the Malevolent now, but yeah, as Isa just said in chat, Anathema was also really cool. Anathema was the goddess of ruin on there, which is sort of reminded me of corruption, but not really. They also had like the god of civilizations. They had the god of justice, like Rosani wanted. There was a lot of really cool things on an Empyrean, and but I think a lot of those little things that those were the gods of are kind of rolled up into gods already on Aetolia. But I don't know. It's hard to just come up with something on the spot. I'm sure I could come up with something. I know that when, a bazillion years ago, when I was on Aetolia volunteering, And I'm sure they've changed this. Obviously, they have. But the idea was eventually, everybody knows we were supposed to eventually go to Albedos. Like, that was the thing, like, to move there. And so at the time, there was ideas floated of, like, what Albedos god would you play or make up or anything. And I think at the time, my idea was to make a god of time. Like, that I always thought a god of time would be good, you know? It's a very neutral concept because it's just like an
Yeah.
elemental force of the universe, time. But I don't know.
I am. I honestly think I don't know anything about like what plans were and that sort of
Oh,
thing.
they've obviously changed. That was 11 years ago, and like none of that actually
Well, that's the
happened.
thing is
So
I suspect that things may have changed, but I also suspect that part of that depends on what we do. Like they can't
yeah,
very well say, "Well, you guys have to stay here," if we all decide at one point, you know what? Fuck Varian. Like fuck it, we're going to help the Albedi gods. Like
yeah,
if it's one of those things where it seems like they're very it seems right now that the admin are very dedicated to trying to make sure that you know
yeah. But don't, like Rowan said in chat, nobody suggests a god of carnal pleasure. Isn't that kind of like what Chakra Soul is too, though?
not quite.
I
Chakrasol's
mean,
corruption is a little is more
I want to say
nuanced
they
than
replaced
that.
lust with avarice for specifically that reason.
well, there you go. But
Um,
Like whatever
so
tenets used to be lust, but the people just turned that
I
into not lust for power, but lust for
lust
X
for
rated.
the flesh. Yeah, everybody at this
So,
this farmers market
um,
wishes to know me carnally. Yeah.
well,
Um.
so they changed that to avarice, which is more in line with lust for power.
I do think
Yeah.
that like well, that's a good one
Well.
too. I
Well.
said
Yeah. So that's why I wanted righteous fury, because I think that justice has many applications, and Demariel tends to be more of a measured justice kind of god.
More
I
diplomat than warrior.
Yes, I would want one that is essentially, oh, you woke up today and chose to be a Carnifex, which means that you enslave souls. That makes me full of righteous fury, and I'm going to gut you about it. Like that's that's sort of the and it doesn't always it honestly it doesn't always have to be a measured response. That's the other thing is I would like it if if you had a god where because all of the light side gods do tend to have more measured responses to everything. Even Herm is perfectly reasonable and capable of making measured response. um I would like a lifer god that doesn't, that just says no. No, I don't care if you are just in Spine's Reach because you don't want to take a side at all, or if you're in Spine's Reach because you're a Sissin, or you're in Bloodlocker. You have committed crimes against Skyrim and her people. What say you in your defense? And then the death happens. You don't get to pay the fine; they just kill you. Because there are people who want to they as frustrating as it can sometimes be. I feel people in life side roleplay get frustrated by zealots. There needs to be a place for them to be zealots.
right.
um
I think as far as new god concepts go, you could also like take the idea in a whole different direction and like you could have a whole new class of gods, as in like how we have the spirit pantheon and we have the shadow pantheon. Why not have like a pantheon of duality that have both essences, that sort of thing? Like
Wasn't
con-
that what we thought Boniface was going to be at
right,
first?
but that's my point. He's not, and maybe
Yeah,
he
no,
could be the first one of that if he like merged with another god or something from spirit. I'm not saying neutrality. You can be both and not be neutral. You can still be like, I don't know. That's not what I mean is neutrality. I just think that like, I don't know. I think you could have gods that have both. And maybe they lean more one way or the other as they do it.
well, I think that is Bamathis kind of that's what Bamathis was supposed to be.
But
He
he's not.
chose Shadow because Shadow needs to. Well, that depends. Because Durin accepted Bamathis for quite a long time before they kicked him out again. So, like, they tried it, is what I'm saying. And it just doesn't quite work out the way. Yeah, he doesn't want to rule out tools he can use. Blah blah blah. He chose it because he's in Kyrian and they're assholes, is what I think.
Well, I
But
will say that the during accepting Bombethus thing was more of a Gray Accord situation where it wasn't intended; it was entirely player driven.
well, that's what I mean. But Mathis wanted people to accept him. It was not forced upon you. But Mathis wanted people to accept him, and it was clear Durin yes-anded him essentially, and it was attempted, but it just doesn't work.
But like, I mean, what I meant is more like, you know how they used to have Dival and Dival's split into the two gods. Why not have the two gods? Not in that particular instance, but like, why can't you have two gods merge into something again like Dival that is both? Like without expressly saying I'm neutral. Like why can't we have a gray god that's not also neutral? Because I think you can have gray areas like we like to talk about all the time without it being a neutral area.
I think it's because well, yes, one, it's against the polarized conflict that kind of drives the game,
Sure.
but two, because then you are inevitably going to have nothing but order problems to
Maybe.
deal with.
But it's like
Because
Rowan just
and then
suggested, why not have two separate orders for one god? That'd be an interesting new concept.
that's still a lot for one Solani to have to deal with.
Maybe.
Constant conflicts between two orders or one order where they just so happen to allow in people from both sides. And moreover,
Thought that would
you'll
definitely not happen.
and moreover, you're just going to have places like Enorian say no, you can't worship them because
like,
you would be in an order with shadow folk.
It's like Rowan just said, like, I have a god of justice and vengeance who has an order for each separate thing. But yeah, like my point is like, again, what I don't know. I don't think we should not try something just because we think it won't go over well. I don't know. I like trying new things. It's kind of a thing I do in life. Like I like to see what
No,
sticks.
totally.
Like
Totally fair, but like I'm coming from it at the standpoint of what I see in Enorian now. For example, if a god like that existed and somebody in Enorian wanted to be in an order with a shadow person, what would Eric's the character?
No. Like we're saying, have two different orders for one god. Like have a spirit order for this duality god, like that only has spirit to other people in it. But then there's an order for the same god that's for shadow to other people. I believe that's what we were trying to say here, but.
I guess I don't know that it's I honestly don't see that Enorian would see it as much different. Like maybe there's two different orders, but it's still the same god. You know what I mean?
But I don't know. But the idea is that it's not like it is, but it isn't. I don't know. It's kind of hard to wrap your mind around.
I kind of had a thought that would solve this issue, and it would totally not happen at all.
Right.
Rasani, you said that such a thing, one god, two orders, would be too much for one Solani to handle, right?
I mean, I think it would be a lot to ask a volunteer to a text game to handle, yes.
Okay, have it be two volunteers.
They barely have enough. We barely have gods active all the time right now anyway.
Like I said, it'll never happen. But
yeah,
two volunteers, same god. They share notes, but each one tugging the way that they prefer to play the god whenever they play it.
I mean, I think in a magical world where we have enough Solani to handle all the gods we have already, that could potentially work. Sure, for the workload for Solani, certainly.
But yeah, that's another good idea in chat. What if he's two personalities and the dominance of one order is the dominance of that personality? That'd be another way to have conflict, even though you're trying to be for the same god, but it's
have regular battlefields between Shadow Order and Spirit Order.
Oh, it's kind of so. What we've arrived to is that we want a god that's basically the orrery.
Well, one, yeah,
okay.
you want
you have completely killed this idea for me. Thank you.
yeah, but and not just that.
Orrery's coming up, by the way.
And forgive me for saying so. I might piss some people off. I think that split personalities is an overplayed and boring trope.
Well, the god of the seasons actually had 4 different personalities on Empyrean based on what season it was and what suffix they had. And it was actually played by someone that did a really good nuanced job of actually like making the personalities like the same person, the same god, but like just different in such a way. Yeah, he also, like Ice had said, he had 4 order heads and 4 champions. It was a mess, but it was also very interesting and cool and unique. I enjoyed it, but that was also a long ass time ago in a different time. So, but
Yeah, I don't know. I think anything is possible to try. And again, like it's one of those things where it's like maybe it's just not a thing for me. But in my experience with Atolia, I've met one person who handles split personalities effectively and respectfully. And most of the other times I've run into it, it is a tropey and kind of disrespectful to people who actually like have that disorder. So I would be remiss to it wouldn't be something that I would try to implement at all, for sure.
yeah. Well, it's getting to be about that time to head out, isn't it?
Sure. I mean, you guys are more than welcome to stay on here. I have to go play D&D because I'm a fucking nerd. So.
Well,
Nerd.
I like talking to Kaius, but I do want to kind of get off here and get ready for howling and
Yeah,
dailies
plus,
and
as we
stuff.
established, I don't really help carry a conversation all that well.
No, you're fine. In fact, you should
Yeah,
come
we had a
back
great
on
conversation.
with us. Yeah.
Yeah,
We have such a
sat-
hard time getting shadow folks on. It would be great.
I
Right.
sat back and listened to Rasani for a bit. Yeah, that's great conversation carrying.
It was good. It'd been like almost 2 years since I last was in voice chat with you, I think.
Was it really 2 years ago?
It's been a long time.
Okay, I'm looking up that post next. I know it's still on the forum.
But yeah, I think we're probably gonna wrap it up here. This was fun. Again, I don't usually give the credits away on the weekday stream, but this weekend we'll be doing Sunday again. But then I believe the following Saturday on the 18th we're gonna have Aline on, which means we're gonna have to do it.
Yes.
We're gonna have to do it at like 11 a.m. Eastern, so that she can come on. So
I want to talk to her about crafting so bad.
Wait, you talking to who?
Aline, the frog.
Yeah.
Aline,
I
the tyrant of Bloodlock.
I need to talk to her about her lie water.
Sorry, there's a disconnect between how I see a name and how I perceive it being pronounced.
Same here.
We've
yeah.
had that problem before, yeah. I've always thought it was just Aline. I mean, it looks like Aline.
Oh, we've got an ad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, we've got an ad where somebody is trying to pretend they're in a restaurant, but they're clearly in like a high school cafeteria.
Oh, holy shit, you're right, Eric. It was 2 years ago, December 2019.
It's been a while. But yeah, we'll probably go ahead and get out of here then. We will be back this weekend though, and
we're still on ad territory.
Oh, it's still there. Please pronounce Eliadon. Well, I just did.
Eliadon.
Eliadon. Yeah, that's how I say it. Eliadon.
I just say Eliadon. I don't know.
Yeah, tell us the proper way to pronounce it. I have always said Eliadon.
I thought it was Eliadon because like the first three letters are kind of like Eli. So I don't know.
It may vary. Again, some of these things are regional things in different areas of the world, or
Right.
or even just this country pronounce things differently.
Rosani, go ahead.
It is Eliadon? Cool.
Okay. Eliadon. Fuck yeah.
But Rosani kind of like passive aggressively making fun of my accent again.
Oh, you know how it is.
Do I?
I am acutely aware that sometimes I will slip directly into a Mainer accent, and you'll get you can't get there from here and park the car and
nice.
and all that sort of stuff.
It is what it is.
Dubba is I don't even know what the fuck that means, but something people in Maine call each other, so here we are.
Nice.
Yeah. I know. I'm fully aware that I can fall right into New England hick zone.
Oh man.
Yeah, when I made up my name, I had Takaius as a pronunciation in mind the entire time. Then a few years ago, I started getting into voice stuff and found out that no, that's not how people actually read my name.
Huh.
Opa is oh, you mean Ope?
Ope.
Oop.
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 I
pronounce that as Oop.
Oop.
Because I am firmly into that region.
No, I make the white people face where we just kind of make our lips like a thin line and like nod at each other, and then we kind of get around each other.
Nice.
Yeah, right.
No. In New England, if we bump into each other, we'll sometimes it's excuse me if you're supposed to be polite, or it'll be you'll keep doing that thing where you keep trying to get around each other. We'll laugh about it, or if we don't care who we're talking to, we're like, get the fuck out of the way, like get out of the way. We're rude people in New England.
Over here in
We are
Wisconsin,
not nice.
over here in Wisconsin, it's more up, up. Let me get past you. Let me
Yeah.
scoop past you. Up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's move over. In Boston, it's in Boston they don't say anything, they just hit you with their car.
Nice.
So,
Car or car?
a car, yeah.
So,
Uh, yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
so do we assume like that most of the people that are active in play in America, at least, are on East Coast? Is that true?
I don't assume that. I know plenty of
It
people
feels
who are
like
on the
it.
West Coast.
Yeah, I know, me too. But like, it seems like a lot of us are
I
on
mean,
East
I am
Coast,
pretty much in the middle of those two, like exactly in the middle. So
right?
I think, yeah,
I
I
know
don't
there's a
know.
lot
It
of
seems like
them
a
that
lot of
are,
people in Enorian are on the East Coast,
yeah.
certainly.
Well, I know there's a lot of like Anatolians that have traditionally been from Texas as well. So
Yeah, I know Lynn. Lynn was from Texas. I think Sabati
yeah, there's
is
a lot of
also
them.
from down south. Um, but I know a few folks that are on the West Coast.
Yeah.
I know some folks that are in the middle,
Yep.
and then folks that are not at all from America.
Right. Yeah, that's why I said America. Like, I know there's a ton of
Yeah,
people that aren't in America, but it feels like a lot of
yeah,
times when we're doing time zones or people are mentioning where they're from, they're usually from like East Coast. But
yeah.
yeah. Anyway, I just thought that
Absolutely,
was fascinating. But yeah, it's probably about time to
absolutely.
get out of here. I don't want to keep Rosani's group waiting. Takayas, I would like you to come on again sometime if you want to. And
I would need more advanced notice of these streams, but sure.
yeah, but now you're on our our server, you can like throw your schedule or you can throw your ideas in there, which would be
Well, we
cool.
can't just accost you while you're in the chat and drag you onto the stream apropos of nothing.
I mean,
You didn't
that's
enjoy this?
Look, it's a miracle I even poked into the chat to begin with. All right.
this is fun.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I spent how many not showing up at all, and then suddenly I drop a sub on you guys, then a follow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fair.
and here you are. Now you're a guest or a host or
Yeah.
whatever it's called.
Oh.
Kidnapped. Yeah, even if you don't want to come on, letting shadow folks know that we want more shadow people on would be spectacular.
Yeah,
Well, I was only clued in on that when you had the other week. Tiani was on. She let me
Yeah,
know that.
Tiani was on. I wanted Mule on so bad, but she didn't want to come on. I wanted to do a special stream of just me and her having a troll hour.
right.
That would have been great.
What
Uh,
what I find fascinating too is like I hear this all the time. Like there's still a large amount of shadow players that don't even know this stream exists, and I don't know how to solve that. Honestly, like it is what it is, I guess.
yeah, you advertise, you do what you can. It's all good.
But anyway, let's go ahead and get out of here. Like we said, you're probably going to be
Sounds good to
late.
me.
I'm ready to
Ugh.
do my pious morning prayers and then start on Milestone shortly after. So
Right on.
we will be back
This
this
was fun.
weekend. Thanks everybody for coming.
Wyatt, keep coming back with more interesting questions like that one. That was
Yeah.
great.
And Clara, it was nice to see you. Thanks for all the Solani in here. Thanks for all the players in here. We're gonna be back this weekend. See you later. Bye bye.
Bye.